Today, we're venturing into some of the internet's really unsettling corners. You know, the web connects us in amazing ways, but it also has these vast, sometimes disturbing depths. We're going to pull back the curtain on 3 truly chilling, real-world stories that actually surfaced from behind anonymous usernames on Reddit. And this isn't just about, like, bizarre posts. It's about hidden realities, shocking truths that sometimes bubble up from the digital world. So, our mission today in this deep dive is to look at these posts and see what they tell us about, well, human experience, maybe unknown dangers around us, and that really thin line between being anonymous online and actual real-world consequences. Seriously, get ready, because these stories, they are genuinely chilling. Okay, our first deep dive begins on a subreddit called Rodly Terrifying. It's a place you go for, well, unsettling images and videos. A while back, someone posted a video there. It showed a suspected rabies patient, and what immediately struck me was the hydrophobia. This intense, almost unreasoning fear of water. I mean, I know rabies was deadly, obviously, but that specific symptom, that sheer terror of water, that was new to me. And that discovery led us down a rabbit hole to this incredibly detailed account from a user named Usery Masterpiece. Apparently someone with firsthand experience working with rabies. Their explanation, it's not just bone-chilling, it really opens your eyes to this silent predator.
Yeah, what's really unsettling is how vivid this picture is that Usery Masterpiece paints. You know, rabies is something most of us just don't think about day to day. They explain it's actually exceptionally common in wildlife, the skunks, bats, that sort of thing. But thankfully, humans don't often encounter the infected ones. Now, imagine this scenario they lay out. It's pretty insidious. You're maybe camping, taking a nap outside in a hammock, and while you're asleep, this tiny brown bat, maybe just 6 grams, right? And it's already in the, quote, rage stages of infection. It's thirsty, it's uncomfortable because of the hydrophobia starting. It gets startled, lands on your knee, maybe bites you. But its teeth are so small, it just feels like a tiny scrape. You might not even notice it. And here's the crucial bit. Rabies doesn't travel in the blood. So a normal blood test, it won't tell you a thing. You're infected, but you don't know it.
Wow. So you wake up, maybe brush off a little scratch, think nothing of it, but like Usery Masterpiece put it, the bomb has been lit and your nervous system is the wick. So how long does that fuse burn before you actually know?
Exactly. And that's the terrifying part. The virus starts multiplying along your nervous system, silently. It does almost no damage at first, totally undetectable. You feel completely normal, no symptoms at all. And this incubation, this waiting period, it can be anywhere from, say, 4 days up to a year, sometimes even longer. By the time anything happens, that camping trip, that little scratch, it's probably long forgotten. The real terror of rabies kicks in when the first symptoms finally appear. And they're subtle, a slight headache, maybe a bit of a backache. But those seemingly small signs mean, as the user chillingly explained, you're already dead, too. When symptoms start, there's no cure for rabies, 0. There's this thing called the Milwaukee Protocol. It's like a last-ditch experimental attempt involving an induced coma. But it rarely works, and even if someone survives, they're often left profoundly disabled. Rabies had a 100% kill rate once symptomatic. That's unique. No other virus on Earth can claim that.
A 100% kill rate. That's just, astonishingly terrifying.
Yeah.
So okay, once those first subtle symptoms hit, what does that progression look like? How bad does it get?
It's described as a living nightmare, that initial headache. It quickly gets worse, turns into a fever, this general feeling of being really unwell. You start feeling fidgety, really uncomfortable, and deeply, deeply scared. See, the virus has finally reached your brain by this point, and it starts reproducing rapidly, beginning at the base. You get intensely anxious, but it's not a rational fear. It's because the virus is, as Usery Masterpiece put it, literally chewing up your amygdala. That's the part of your brain handling fear. Then your cerebellum, which controls coordination and balance, it becomes hot with the virus. You start losing muscle control, your balance goes. You might think, okay, maybe I should see a doctor now, but honestly, by then it's way, way too late.
And that's when the hydrophobia, the fear of water, really kicks in.
Yes.
Horribly thirsty. You desperately want water, but the moment you see it, or even think about drinking, your throat just clamps shut. You gag, maybe vomit. It's an active, genuine fear response. Your brain, being ravaged by this thing, it just can't handle the contradiction. Intense thirst versus the physical inability to drink. Then your thalamus, the brain's sort of sensory relay station, gets affected. Everything goes haywire. You might hear things that aren't there, or hear nothing at all, taste sounds, see smells. It's described as feeling like the worst acid trip imaginable. A horrifying one. Your hippocampus memory orientation that's under attack too. So you lose memories, you become completely disoriented. Imagine it. You're alone in this state, hallucinating, confused, and just absolutely terrified. Everything scares you, people trying to help, everything. And all of this whole downward spiral happens within about a week of that first little headache.
Oh my God. And then comes the end.
Eventually, yes. You slip into what they call the dumb rabies phase. Basically, the brain starts shutting down. Too much of it has been, well, liquefied by the virus. Your face might droop, you start drooling, you become mostly unaware of what's going on around you. A loud noise might make you jump, but otherwise you just stare. You haven't really slept in days at this point, and then you die. Like Usury Masterpiece bluntly said, always you die, and there's not one fucking thing anyone can do for you.
And to add another layer of chilling reality, rabies can survive in a corpse for years, even if we wiped out every rabid animal today. If some animal found innate infected brain tissue 2 years from now, this cycle could start all over again.
Wow. Knowing all that context, that initial video of the patient showing hydrophobia becomes even more haunting, doesn't it? That person in the video, by the time that was filmed, they were already gone, really. This whole deep dive into rabies, it's more than just a virus story. It's a stark reminder, isn't it? How the biggest threats can come from things we don't see, things we barely notice, turning something mundane into an absolute biological nightmare. Okay, let's shift gears now. We're moving from that kind of hidden biological terror to something deeply human and honestly equally chilling in its own way. Our next story focuses on a Reddit user known as Gumakimum. She was apparently very active in the community, a mother to 7 kids, 5 boys, 2 girls. Her posts were often about things like family finances, sharing recipes, parenting tips, and strategies. You could tell from her history she was really devoted to her family. There's even this one post she made. It was so touching. She wrote something like, "I would never give up having any of my children so I could have more money. They are amazing people and the world will benefit by having them in it. And nothing I could buy or invest in could compare to giving a person a chance to have life." I mean, just think about the love in that statement.
Right, and what's striking is her consistency. She wasn't just an occasional poster. She was really active, seemed really embedded in these online groups. But then, June 24th, 2015, she makes her final post.
Right.
And after that, just silence. She completely vanished from Reddit. For someone that engaged, that kind of abrupt, total silence, it immediately makes you wonder, what happened? Why did she disappear? And the reason for Umakum's silence, tragically, it was far, far darker than anyone online could have possibly guessed.
Yeah, the heartbreaking truth is Umakumum's real name was April Bever. She was 42 years old, a mother of 7, just like her posts suggested. And tragically, she became one of the victims in what's known as the horrific Broken Arrow killings.
On the night of July 20th, 2015, April, her husband David, and 3 of their children, Daniel, who was 12, Christopher, 7, and little Victoria, only 5, they were all killed. And the unimaginable part, the attackers were her own sons, Robert, who was 18, and Michael, 16. The reports say the brothers lured family members into one part of their house. Then they suddenly attacked them using hatchets and other blades. April suffered 48 puncture wounds, neck, head, torso, arms, hands. Her husband David, 28 times. It was just brutal, premeditated violence.
It's almost impossible to comprehend that level of betrayal from your own children, but there was a survivor, right? Amidst all that darkness.
Yes, incredibly. Their sister Crystal, who was 13 at the time, she survived despite having her throat slit and her stomach punctured. In what must have been an unbelievable act of courage, she managed to call 911. The authorities got there in time to save her life and arrest Robert and Michael. And their youngest sister, Autumn, just 2 years old, she was asleep in another room and was completely unharmed. The motive they gave police, it's chilling. Robert confessed that if the police hadn't shown up, their plan was to drive around, kill 5 people each at different locations, aiming for a total body count of 50. Michael apparently wanted to kill 500 people. It really speaks volumes about Crystal's bravery. She didn't just save herself, she likely saved countless other lives that night.
Going back and reading April's old Reddit post where she talks about her sons with such love, it's just absolutely heart-wrenching now knowing what happened. That warmth and love she expressed only for those same sons to take her life, and the lives of the siblings she clearly cherished so much. The irony is just sickening.
Both Robert and Michael received life sentences. Michael has the possibility of parole eventually. Robert does not. They're serving their time in separate prisons. The whole Umakumum story, it really forces you to think about the lives we present online versus reality, doesn't it? And the terrifying capacity for both deep love and unimaginable violence that can exist, hidden even within the closest families. It's just a stark, tragic reminder that even the most seemingly normal online personas can sometimes mask these unthinkable real-world horrors.
Okay, our final story for today. It takes us to another kind of dark revelation, this time from an Ask Reddit thread. The question posed was pretty intense. To those of you who accidentally killed someone, what went wrong? Now, as you'd expect with over 10,000 replies, most were maybe not personal accounts, or they were about things like car accidents or situations where someone acted in self-defense. But buried deep in there was one reply that really stood out. It eventually caught a lot of attention. It was left by an anonymous user, Archaeology.
And what's fascinating, or maybe disturbing, is the confession itself. It's decades old. Archaeology described this incident from their childhood back in the 1980s. They talked about having this hideout in a place they called a Dirt Cliff Cove, apparently taller and wider than the name suggests. One day, Archaeology and two friends went there and found this, quote, weird, creepy kid sitting at the top. Looking back, they thought the kid was probably mentally handicapped. They yelled at him to get out of their spot. He apparently yelled back, "Make me," and started throwing dirt clod sticks down at them. Archaeology's memory gets hazy here, but they remember running around the side trying to get up to confront him, and then he fell. The detail that stuck with them, the chilling part, was the memory of the sound of the fall, and then finding him below in a really awkward position with blood coming out of his mouth.
That's a truly horrifying thing for a kid to witness, let alone potentially be involved in. What did they do right after?
They just panicked, freaked out, ran home. And as far as Archaeology remembered, none of them ever said a word about it to anyone. They didn't go back to the hideout for over a month, never discussed it among themselves again. This was the 80s, remember, so information didn't travel like it does now. Archaeology just sort of assumed there might have been a small newspaper blurb somewhere. Missing mentally disabled child found dead after fall, something like that. The reaction on Reddit was mixed. Some sympathy for carrying that burden for so long, but also a lot of speculation. Did the kid really just fall accidentally? Or, given the context of the thread, was he maybe pushed? Many suspected the latter.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Because Reddit being Reddit, people started digging. Could this anonymous, decades-old confession actually lead somewhere?
Exactly. Reddit has this reputation for online sleuthing. And it happened here, too. Someone noticed that Archaeology, through their main comment and other replies they'd made across Reddit over time, had accidentally dropped a few identifying clues. Little tidbits here and there. Another user managed to connect these dots. They put it all together and asked Archaeology directly. Was the victim Scott Cleesholt? This user pointed out that Scott Cleesholt went missing back in 1988 in St. Charles, Missouri. He was 9 years old. He was last seen near his home, close to a wooded area with caves known locally as the Trails. And crucially, right before a huge thunderstorm hit the area. Scott's body was actually never found. Police at the time speculated he might have been washed away in the storm. The user who made this connection strongly urged Archaeology to contact the St. Charles police, regardless of whether it was definitely Scott or not, just to share the information.
So what happened then? Did Archaeology respond? What does this mean for, online anonymity?
Well, the potential identification clearly struck a nerve. Almost immediately after that user posted the connection to Scott Cleesholt, Archaeology deleted their original confession. And then the entire account just went inactive, poof, gone. And it stayed that way for the past 5 years. The whole thing just hangs there, unresolved.
Wow. That's, a really stark, real-world example of just how fragile that sense of anonymity online can be.
It's such a critical lesson, isn't it? People often feel this sense of safety, like they can confess anything online, personal secrets, maybe even illegal acts, thinking there are no real consequences. But time after time, we see that's just not true. People have confessed to cheating, only to have someone connect the dots and expose them to their partner. We've seen cases where users lost their jobs because someone tracked them down over offensive comments. Even if you try to be smart and use a throwaway account, one made just for anonymity, dedicated groups of Reddit detectives can sometimes piece together who you are, especially if the post is serious enough. Authorities have definitely tracked down and even arrested users based on online admissions of crimes. And yet, despite all these risks, thousands of people still basically wear their dirty laundry, as they say, all over these sites every single day. This story, this decades-old confession, possibly unearthed by digital sleuthing. It really highlights the internet's double-edged nature, right? It can be a place to unburden your conscience, but it's also like leaving digital fingerprints that can bring long-buried secrets, maybe even justice, crashing into the light.
These 3 stories, taken together, they really drive home the power And yeah, the peril of the internet's hidden corners, don't they? We've looked at the terrifying reality of a virus lurking unseen, the heartbreaking gap between a loving online image and a real-life family slaughter, and the chilling way a decades-old secret unraveled because online anonymity isn't foolproof.
Absolutely. These stories, they're a powerful reminder, really. Behind every username, every screen, there's a real life. And sometimes, yeah, deeply buried secrets. It kind of challenges you, doesn't it? To think about what hidden stories might lie just beneath the surface, not just online, but in the lives all around us, maybe even our own.
We really hope you found this deep dive as compelling and maybe as unsettling as we did. If these kinds of explorations into the darker side of things resonate with you, please do remember to engage with our channel, Horror Docx. Your likes, shares, and especially subscriptions, they really help us keep bringing you these fascinating and sometimes disturbing discoveries. We truly appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for your attention, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.